Dean, you have done a remarkable job this morning. Your Torah reading was beautiful, confident, and clear. And your Devar Torah was honest in a way that took real courage. You asked the questions that many of us carry but don't always say aloud. Does God exist? Why doesn't God intervene? Why do injustices persist, even in our most sacred stories? You didn't offer easy answers. You didn't wrap everything up neatly. Instead, you said, always keep on asking. Some things are simply too incomprehensible for us to ever be sure about the answers. That refusal to pretend certainty, that willingness to live in the question, is deeply and profoundly Jewish. Your Torah portion comes from Parshat Vayetzé. Jacob has fled from his brother Esau and arrived in Haran, where he falls in love with Rachel. Your portion is full of deception and powerlessness. Jacob is tricked into marrying Leah instead of Rachel, and they have no say in who they will marry. Bilhah and Zilpah are treated, as you say, as property, and their names almost erased from most versions of our central prayers. You noticed all of this. You noticed who was invisible, who had no voice, whose suffering went unaddressed. And then you connected those ancient injustices to the ones we still face today. But here's what I want us to notice. This is the same Jacob who, just chapters earlier, deceived his own brother, Esau, as you mentioned, stealing his blessing, exploiting his hunger, and leaving him bereft. The man who experiences injustice in your portion once perpetuated it himself. Our biblical heroes, almost all of them, are profoundly human, capable of both wrongdoing and transformation, of both causing harm and wrestling with its consequences. Jacob's story continues. In Genesis 32, after 20 years in Haran, he's returning home to face the brother he deceived. And the night before that reunion, Jacob wrestles through the night with the mysterious figure described in the text as Ish, simply a man. Though our interpretive tradition understands this figure variously as an angel, or as a manifestation of God, or as Jacob wrestling with his own conscience and past. The Jacob who deceived Esau, who experienced deception himself, who lived among injustice, who saw the women in his life treated unjustly, he doesn't escape his moral complexity. His experiences of injustice, his moral struggles, they become the very thing he has to wrestle with. And from that wrestling, he receives a new name. The text is explicit. Your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Yisrael, for you have wrestled with God and with humans, and you have prevailed. The Hebrew root of Yisrael, Sarah, means to struggle, to contend, to wrestle, literally one who wrestles with God. Our people's very name is built on struggle. Not God believer or God follower or even God lover, though we certainly are all those things too. But at our core, we are a people who sometimes are defined by struggle, by engagement, by the refusal to accept things as they are without asking the hard questions. Dean, when you asked, does God even exist? You weren't straying from Jewish tradition. You were actually standing right in the center of it. The Talmud in Eruvin 13b records a debate between Hillel and Shammai that lasted 2.5 years. And finally, a bat kol, a heavenly voice, announces, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chaim. These and these are the words of the living God. Both positions contradicting each other are divine speech. The multiplicity itself is sacred. Abraham argued with God over Sodom and Gomorrah, demanding, shall not the judge of all the earth do justice? Job also refused easy explanation and demanded answers directly from God. And the entire book of Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, wrestles with ultimate meaning asking brutally honest questions about whether anything matters at all. Your questions show how much you care about justice, about truth, about integrity, about the tradition that you're inheriting today. But I want to address directly the questions that you've raised about God's silence, about God's absence in the face of injustice. Why doesn't God intervene? Why are Rachel and Leah trapped? Why are Bilhah and Zilpah treated as property? Why does God let these things happen in Torah and in our world today? These are the questions that Jews have been asking, especially after profound suffering. Jewish theology doesn't offer one answer. It offers many responses, holding them in tension. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel taught that God is in search of humanity, not absent, but waiting for us to respond. Martin Buber's theology of encounter suggested that God meets us in the I-thou relationships that we create, in moments of genuine meeting between persons. Mordechai Kaplan understood God not as a supernatural being, but as the power that makes for justice and meaning in the universe. God as process rather than person. Some teachers draw on the principle of bechira chofshit, free will. They say God is limited by human choice, that God cannot force us to choose justice without destroying the very freedom that makes us human. Rabbi Harold Kushner, in wrestling with the problem of suffering, suggested that God is not all-powerful in the way that we imagine, but that God stands with us in suffering, but cannot always prevent it. Others, following the tradition of shutafut's partnership with the divine, say God works through us, not instead of us. The Kotzker Rabbi taught, where is God? Wherever we let God in. So here's where I think the wrestling becomes most important. When we ask, where is God in this injustice, we also have to ask, where am I in this injustice? The two questions cannot be separated. Genesis Rabbah teaches that the world was created incomplete. God left it unfinished on purpose so that humanity could become partners in completing it. And this is the foundation of tikkun olam, repairing the world. It's based on the radical idea that God needs us, that there is work to do that won't get done without us. But Dean, you already understand all of this. You're an inclusion ambassador at your school. You've started a politics magazine with your friend. You go litter picking with your local counselor. And you want to be prime minister so you can address injustice at the highest levels. These aren't small steps. They're exactly the work. They're what partnership looks like. The injustices you named, sexism, classism, deception, God hasn't fixed them because that's our assignment. That's the work of every generation. And being a bar mitzvah means becoming responsible, becoming obligated, a son or daughter of the commandment, becoming a full partner in this ongoing project. You don't need to have all the answers, but you do need to show up to do the work. What you need is engagement, the willingness to keep asking and keep building, even when you're not sure. The Israeli poet Zelda wrote a poem called L'chol ish yesh shem. Each person has a name, and I want to share a small part of it with you. Each person has a name given by God and given by their parents. Each person has a name given by their stature and their smile, and given by their clothing. Each person has a name given by the mountains and given by their walls. Each person has a name given by the planets and given by their neighbors. Each person has a name given by their sins and given by their longing. Each person has a name given by their enemies and given by their love. Each person has a name given by their celebrations and given by their work. Dean, you have many names. The names your parents gave you at birth, the names your friends use, the names your sister Lila calls you, probably several depending on whether you've just set the table or not. the name grandson that connects you to your grandparents. Today you are called to the Torah by your Hebrew names, names that connect you to your ancestors and carry their legacy forward. And it's remarkable, your mom's Hebrew name is Rachel, and your grandma's is Leah, the very matriarchs of your Torah portion. As you said, you were destined to read this story. But you also carry other names: brother, student, inclusion ambassador, citizen, question asker. Like Jacob becoming Israel, we collect names throughout our experiences and the choices we make. You ended your Devar Torah by saying we must keep asking, that life is an endless staircase forever leading to more and more, that we must ask, think, share, and find out about together. That vision of questions as a path we walk together as community is exactly what Jewish life should be. So today you've received a new name, Bar Mitzvah, son of the commandment, a full member of this community. And you're joining a long tradition of God wrestlers, of people who care enough to struggle with what's true and what's right. But there are other names waiting for you too, names you'll earn through your questions you continue to ask, the justice you pursue, the struggles you don't let go of, names given by your celebrations and your work, names you can't yet imagine and that will emerge from the wrestling itself. You may never know with certainty whether God exists, but you can know this: you exist, your questions matter, your actions matter, your commitment to repairing injustice in your home, your school, your community, your world matters. And in a tradition that bears the name God Wrestler, your willingness to struggle with the biggest questions make you exactly who we need you to be. Mazel Tov Din. We're so proud of you. Shabbat Shalom.